today we have a fascinating topic. We're going to discuss glycotypes. It's quite new. Probably majority of us didn't hear it, me either, before I enter lifestyle medicine and metabolic health. So what are glycotype and how our body using energy across lifespan, how we use it when we're children, in puberty, young adults, mature adults, and when we age. So what happened to the way how they absorb and metabolize glucose? So that's why it's glycotype. With different words is a sugar type, the way how you break down sugars and produce energy. It's quite new. It's first sort of been proposed in 2018 from a Stanford professor. Actually, I was in his lectures myself in longevity course in Stanford. I was lucky actually being introduced to continuous glucose monitoring and was able to discuss with our students about longevity and glycotypes, how they changed in their life, and I'm ready to pass this knowledge directly to you. So he proposed 3 types. It's low, moderate, and severe ability. That means, what is your response when you consume glucose? It's low response, so you're quite stable, you process it nicely. Moderate, so you're more sensitive to glucose, or severe, so you spike extremely high and unpredictably maybe keep your spikes longer, so it might be pre-diabetic or even diabetic, or it might varies, depends on type. So today we're going to discuss what type probably you have. Without blood tests will be very hard to say, without continued glucose monitoring as well, but we're trying to have a better picture about it, and when you start to discover yourself, you will be able to understand better what type you are in terms of how you consume glucose. As well, you'll be able to understand your hormones and mitochondria and how the way how you taking this glucose and metabolism affect your lifestyle, how your lifestyle effect on the way how what type of glycotype do you have. It's new, and the good news is that a lot of research ongoing, and last year European Union invested 4 million into glycotype, so you can go and search yourself and follow research with fascinating data. So we actually waiting for new data, more information, and hopefully in 10 years, glycotype will be essential parameter of metabolic health, and every single person we're going to talk about general well-being and lifestyle. Goal is to understand where you stand in and how improve your stability. In different words, we want you to be stable as possible when you take chocolate, sugar, or fructose, any simple sugar or any type of just glucose. We want you to respond steadily. It's very hard to achieve. Older they get, harder is achieved. So why glucose matter? Because every cell use glucose for energy without exception. Even red blood cells who don't have mitochondria, they also still have this glucose. So every single cell. The main consumer is the brain. The tiny little organ consume 20-25%, even in the rest, because they're constantly doing something, including nighttime. Yeah, so even when we are sleeping, the brain still needs glucose, but you don't really need insulin. Yeah, muscles, another very big consumer in the level of glucose, and of course it's heart. So these tissues are the main consumer of the glucose. So, an organism trying to do everything to deliver this glucose to every single cell. And we can deliver to organism directly eating glucose or eating other nutrients like proteins and fat, and our organism metabolism break them down via different processes to deliver and create that glucose for every single cell to consume and we to live and heart to beat. So, and blood sugar stability mean you have a stable energy, you have a stable mood, and you have a good focus. modern society are absolutely, with different words, got mad and crazy because of mood, depression, and mainly anxiety. And this anxiety mainly linked to unstable sugar level because we're spiking it all the time. The diabetes go up the roof because our glucose is not stable. And if you see some anxious person or some moody or, in terms of how you perceive yourself, how you feel in terms of your energy, you probably need to look on your glycotype and how you metabolize this glucose. Do you produce ketones? How you survive the nighttime during the low sugar, low metabolic rate, because during the night we're slowing down everything because we're not eating, we're sleeping. The brain doing very important stuff. There's a different life in there. We're going to discuss the brain and sleep in different series and different lectures, but today we're going to understand the importance. So chronic spikes in glucose and chronic spikes that might happen from everything. Severe stress, cortisol levels, adrenaline, so it's a stressful fight-or-flight situations, too much sugar, so many factors. Please note that cortisol and adrenaline is, I would call it mainly sugar and glucose regulation hormones because they're crucial. Glucose is so important, and when we stress, we need this sugar. So that's why if you feel stressed, distressed, and you want to eat something sweet to keep functioning, to improve your focus or improve your mood, don't be surprised, it's normal. But results might be quite sad in terms of your metabolic health and your general well-being. So your glucose patterns is your metabolic fingerprint. I now can say so much just what you're looking at your nighttime and how you're waking up, and you see your glucose when you exercise or what's going on. And of course, when you eat any types of food, how you spike, how you go up for how long, how you drop, come back to normal. And of course, inflammation process, you can see how your organism straight away dipping and use much more glucose to recover in terms of flu, any viruses, or you didn't sleep well and you need more resources. You see straight away in your blood results, all organisms shifting so quickly. Or you're flying, or you're in a trip, exhausted, distressed, all that will show on your continued glucose monitor on your picture. You just need to be trained. You don't need to become a specialist and expert to that. So that's why I hope will be more and more specialists worldwide in the healthcare profession, because it's so new. Healthcare professionals not aware. We need a time, I would say 5, maybe 10 years. First of all, we need to wait for results for European Union, classify it better and make national or international recommendations in terms how we're going to classify the types. But so far, we're going to discover our well-being and our metabolism and keep an eye on the science and research and our colleagues, my colleagues, scientists who work in healthcare in different institutions. It's fascinating research, and I would love to be part, but we might be part of that simply already practicing it, identifying and taking measurements to improve our lifestyle. So, what is a glycotype? Your unique glucose variability profile. We all respond differently. There is no unique and absolutely the same because we are so different. We have different lifestyle, we have different genetics, we have different microbiomes, we have different preferences. We're so different, and every single day we change it. Even within an hour, we're changing it within half an hour sometimes. And all the organism shifting is reflecting how efficiently you process carbs and stress. Because stress, as we said, adrenaline and cortisol is sugar regulation hormones. They're not bad. They're actually very good hormones. They're keeping us alive and they're saving up our life. I was not aware of adrenaline keeping me on afloat, because I'm severely hypoglycemic and I have reactive hypoglycemia, and I was not diagnosed by nobody since my childhood. And I complained so many times, unless I visit this, install myself as a goodwill, continue glucose monitoring. So that's why I'm pro glycotype, because it might change your life ups and down. It's just actually, if you have questions, you don't know how to love yourself, how to get connected to yourself, this is the great gateway for your well-being and for changes. So as I said, it's a 3 main types. Low is perfection. It's very hard to get there. It's only 20%. Severe and moderate. Severe, again, around 30%. This is already pre-diabetic, guys. Everything is quite bad there, probably metabolic syndrome. And moderate, they need moderation, so it's in between severe and normal. Sometimes they have symptoms of normal, sometimes low, sometimes they're severe. So it's really, and they're floating during a lifetime from low to moderate to severe. So they're constantly floating. It's never in one go because, as I said, so many factors involving, and glucose straight away going to respond. So it really depends on the time of the year, so many different, even your mind, your attitude, positive or negative, they'll straight away shown on your glucose. So that's why stay positive, and actually positivity will help you to slow down and improve your mood. If you're anxious, depressed, have a mental issue, you believe you have mental issues and have anger management issues, glucose, this is something you have to look at. And of course is early indicator of upcoming healthcare problems like metabolic issues, so many problems we can already predict just by knowing your glucotype. So let's discuss now low variability. Or low variability is then your glucose curve stay very predictable, is super efficient. Your mitochondria is constantly getting energy that they need to produce ATP, or depends on the cells, the energy or the heat. Again, it's a constant, regular supply. Moderate is the high post-meal peaks. So it means then you eat carbs, you goes up more advanced, and then you coming down within an hour. So it seems like it's okay, but a little bit higher and causing a little bit more stress for your organism because it's too much sugar, so you probably release more insulin as respond, and insulin as a result, what does insulin is asking to keep your carbs in the fat tissue, so you're getting bigger. Yeah, so that's why we want this. If you have these bigger spikes, you release more insulin, and this insulin trying to take a glucose, make into the triglycerides. Yeah, there's a cholesterol already, part of a lipid profile, and store it in the fat cells. And then have this belly growing, we getting more fat without insulin or with limited insulin. Such process will be disturbed or limited, and you stay slim. So that's why if you see somebody with extra weight, we probably need to see, of course, there's so many different reasons why it's happening, but that is the main factor. Without insulin, you wouldn't be able to store, to create, to fill your fat cells with more fat. So and severe is frequent spikes, so it's constantly spiking up, whatever you do, a little bit of stress in the morning, and it's not recovering to the normal levels, and it goes up and down, so energy crashes. So it's too much, then it's going down, it's stay too much. And this is the main discomfort. Psychopathic behaviors start to appear, your anxiety, your mood changes, so your irritability, because you don't know what's going on, and when you eat this a little bit more sugar, you start to feel better, isn't it? That's why constant snacking, this constant sugar or salty products, when we're keeping this anxiety calming down, this is number one predictor with something wrong with you. Yeah, this is some number you have to. If you want to be more stable, if you want to improve your mood, your energy levels, please be mindful and trying to keep this spike as as possible. Yeah, and we're going to discuss today, or in all my lectures, are all about glucose, because glucose is number one energy source, and ketones. Yeah, so. Difference often visible years before pre-diabetes, because then you have these severe spikes. It's call for very soon you'll be in trouble. You have type 2 diabetes. That's why if you catch it on the time, you can prevent disease. If you already have diabetes, you can reverse it. Simple lifestyle changes. About 1 in 3 adults show moderate to severe patterns. I would say latest research was done a few years ago, saying that 80% of the population, somehow showing that we have severe response on sugar because we get so much sugar. It just overloaded. And fructose is number one. Fruits is number one. Actually, danger from, I would say, from age of 20, you need to be very, very mindful of fruits. Very mindful. Yeah, recommend. We need it because we want fiber. But to be honest, eat just outside, this skin of the fruit. Yeah, don't eat the fruit because the most sugar and the most benefit in the skin because the fiber part. The rest actually not so much fructose there, and fructose after that is direct fat deposit and fill up other fat. So let's talk about a little bit about numbers. I'm talking about European, UK, not American, and somehow these two continents divided so much. One country called adrenaline in the European Union because adrenaline was discovered here, and epinephrine in the United States. So when I say adrenaline, it's the same as epinephrine. And today I'm going to talk in millimoles because closer to my qualification in the UK. And this is what we measure glucose level in millimoles per liter. So low, mean. What does mean? Mean is what is the average glucose level within daytime. Usually we want to measure it for a week at least to see what is your average. They call it mean glucose level and the mean number of glucose. And low, or I would say stable, is 4.7 to 5.8 millimole. So, and variation might be 20% plus minus, but not always, because I have a low mean, very low mean, but I severely spike in diabetic. So we have so many exclusions of that. When I'm saying it's ideally low mean, in general, have very good response. So it's not issue with me. I need to be careful. I know I should look after my lifestyle, what I eat, but genetically, I have severe spikes on glucose. That's my genetic preposition, and this is the way how my organism responds since I was a child. So that's what I'm saying. We can't put you inside the box of a low mean, but my low mean is low and great. Yeah. So the low mean is mean in average. You might go up and down, but you come back down to low glucose level, and you manage it well, and they have a lower concern. Moderate, that's mean your mean number for a week, day and night, and the fasting and after consuming your nutrients or your food, average 5.8 to 6.9. So that's mean you are okay, somewhere spiking. Ideally, we won't address that and implement already some sort of lifestyle changes. The way how you consume your eating your lunch, breakfast, carbs. For example, you start with fiber, you increase your fiber intake. We look maybe on your microbiomes. They see what's going on with your nighttime, with your sleeping patterns, what's going on with your alcohol intake or smoking toxin intake. So might interact in that in creating these spikes. But it's a little bit need amendments, and lifestyle medicine entering here, maybe extra tests to see what's happened with your metabolic rate, your thyroid glands. We'll look at triglycerides level, maybe a little bit high. So we need to already alert and maybe make some changes. And severe is mean, so average for a week is over 6.9 millimole per liter. So that already alarm. This is something that you might already need to discuss with your GP. They're trying to explain what's going to happen. Diabetes is not far away if you continue this way. And of course, without any discussion, you have to take steps. Usually it will be physical activity, of course, diet, changing your patterns, and low carb diet here probably will be the first step. So how to define, and here variation, the higher they go, plus minus grows, yeah? So that's mean you might go 30% up and down. So one day you might be very high in your sugar, your mean might change. So the big variations, yeah, big roller coasters in your sugars are not good. But of course, we need to look at the broader, large picture altogether. Do we need to worry or not? Yeah, somebody like me, I'm a unique case. I'm an unusual case. And I'm worried about you. So if you see this, sometimes really dangerous. The same as me, I was panicking and I saw my result and what's happening with my glucose. I was not ready because I was pretty much sure. I got my metabolic badge in here. I'm 7% of people in terms of biomarkers of metabolic health, and they say yes, I'm healthy, and then surprise, I'm not. But I am. Just I'm special. I have my own restrictions, and I need to follow very more strict diet and to keep myself healthy, to keep my metabolic health in range. And you will be unique as well. So that's why precision here, unique in individual approach to all of that is essential. There is no another you exist in the world. And you today and you in half a year or 10 years ago, it's different you. With different patterns, and your epigenetics change so quickly. We need as little as 1 week to change our epigenetics. So we're switching on and off our genes just by lifestyle, by our daily choices within a week. Isn't it great? Like a Play-Doh. Younger we are, easier and faster we can do that. Older, take a little bit longer, but we still can reverse so many things. We can switch the right genes on and we can switch off the better ones, and we can change ourselves. We change personality, we change our the way how we interact with people. We change it as a people. You can imagine we are different people even half a year ago, and this influence our choices, what we do, shaping us and changing us. So don't be surprised when somebody said, listen, you change, you wasn't like that before. Yes, and usually it's your link to your experiences in your life and lifestyle choices. So about lifespan, let's talk about the childhood. They're highly flexible and they're quick recovery, and they need the sugar because the sugar stimulates growth. And the glucose here is number one. So that's why children, they always want ice cream, want this fat, they want something sweet, and actually they consume it, they metabolize it. Absolutely different in comparison to adult or elderly. So that's why we should allow children more fruits in this case. Here is essential: vegetables, fruits, carrots, beetroot, anything with a lot of glucose. Children, let them consume them. Say yourself no, yeah, if you're sensitive to that, but children is a different matter. Adolescents, they have so many hormonal shifts, and here they might be insulin resistant because they start producing a lot of hormones. Cholesterol gets constantly in use. You can imagine they have roller coasters of hormones they never experienced before, and they might develop this insulin resistant. Girls usually put on a lot of weight because insulin boosting and all the hormones start to change, and due to this estrogen, the estrogen telomerase, when they need to keep the fat tissue, it will be breasts, it will be hips, and the gender changing. And boys, they're building up more muscle because of more testosterone, and all that require energy, require glucose. And then they start to go in slow decline in your 30s and early 40s. Late 20s, 40s is a mild glycotype shift. And here it's very important. How do you live? What is your lifestyle? Do you exercise? How much alcohol do you drink? What is your lifestyle? What do you do on a daily basis? 50s, 60s, that is menopause and andropause. So women and men going through hormonal changes. Male testosterone goes down and women estrogen goes down, and now we see opposite, and usually mitochondria start to go into decline and insulin delay. So we get opposite comparison to very similar. We're getting more insulin resistant, the same as adolescents. Yeah, then they're boosting, moving, so producing that. Now they're going to opposite direction to the teenagers, and quite often in the families nowadays, bless them, they live under one roof. The teenagers in menopause or andropause men. You can imagine women, your mom going through menopause, your dad andropause. They have ED problems and testosterone goes down. Your mom going from menopause, and you're going through all these hormonal changes. And it's probably is a crazy home. I don't know. I'm younger. My kids now in their teens. I still not entering my 50s, but a lot of families do. So I was a young parent when I started family. I'm thinking, God bless, what did these people, how they experience this madness and so many divorces because they can't cope. There's no culture, there's not adequate support for teenagers and for these couples who are going through a lot of changes. We have now more and more support for andropause and male testosterone and ED function, and for female for menopause, to support the couples to not break down, to not grow apart, understand each other. And this can happen in late 40s, beginning of 50s. So, and now finally 50s to 60s, so is already the process started, we're going to decline. And here actually a very good idea to start eat less, not less meat, but more vegetarian diet, more fiber and more fruits and vegetables, not fruits, maybe more vegetables. 70 plus, sarcopenia is a muscle loss and a slow hepatic control. So we're going into further decline. Mitochondria continue to decline. Here's very essential. Keep your muscles alive. Physical activity, number one, and adequate proteins to produce these muscles. Yeah. So because sarcopenia boosting after start to go very, very quickly. You might have muscles splitting, disappearing everywhere. So it might be abdominal muscles, chest, legs, everywhere. Full bones, yeah, because organisms still start to metabolize everything, including tendons and bones. So we're going to decline and we want to prevent it. So know your glycotype and follow lifestyle medicine advice. So what is producing this energy? Of course, mitochondria. So many times discussed it because we can't live without mitochondria. Every single cell, a part of red blood cells here who deliver, they're using glucose without mitochondria. They convert glucose to ATP, the currency of energy. And depends on mitochondria. If uncoupling, they warm it up and produce another heat to keep our body warm. And of course, efficient mitochondria is keeping our glucose stable. But as we know, as we age, is linked to epigenetics and genetics factors. The telomere is shortening and they have a more and more cycle in terms of RNA and DNA, I would say, recovering information, and they do more mistakes. As a result, mitochondria is getting more grey, more disabled, or even dying, getting black. As a result of that, they can't use the energy and they can't use this glucose as efficient as them being children, yeah? And they're shifting. Yeah, our response will be much worse, so we need essentially here to decline and reduce amount of glucose and trying to stimulate our mechanisms like, I don't know, well, I know physical activity is stable and trying to keep it as long as we can, but we have our limits. We have to understand there is no science yet didn't arrive to the point how we can reverse it. Mitochondria is one of them, injecting, growing them, but at the moment is only speculation, is only theories. In real life, nobody escaped yet that decline. Aging, of course, as this function is building up lactate, we have energy swings, so this means we see it more severely, lack of energy, we need more rest to build up this energy. And aging stress, inactive lifestyle or sedentary lifestyle, of course, reducing mitochondrial capacity. And then mitochondria as well here is boosted. If you have lack of energy, start to exercise, yeah? Exercise and fasting improve. Next lecture, we're going to talk about fasting, pluses and minuses, and how we can prepare. Fasting is essential for glucose, and we experience it every single day when we're going to sleep. So we're definitely going to fast. We have to fast at least, ideally at least 12 hours. And think about your mitochondria. Do everything because they keep our glucose flat. And mitochondria, I think I talk about every single lecture about mitochondria, and follow that what suits you and what a start point is best for you. So nighttime and circadian glucose. Night drips, and we all have it. First of all, nighttime is a fasting period. Then everything gets slowed down, and we are even paralyzed. I'm gonna talk about it now today, but in REM cycle, when you sleep, everybody gets paralyzed because doing so many processing so many things, and we don't want you to move. Literally, you knock down completely. If somebody experiences sleep paralysis, this is what you see the things. You open your eyes, you see you're like in a dream and semi-awake, but you're paralyzed. And of course, that's saving up energy as well. If not, you might fight some sleeping disorders, isn't it? They might fight, they might even kill someone. So many things can happen, and then they don't understand what's happened, but it's dysfunction. So, but here we're talking about energy, but glucose. So now it reflects liver glucose output and cortisol, right? Liver keeping this glucose and the release, then it's needed. And here sometimes might be the problem with adrenal gland and cortisol. Here is the cortisol playing a crucial role. Usually cortisol go down in evening, and as a result of the glucose go down. So that's why we don't eat carbs or sweets or anything sugary in evening, because you're not going to sleep. You produce this energy and you won't be able to sleep. You disturb the process. And it's going to the minimum around 3 a.m. And this is the main time that all these elderly menopausal, andropausal women and men start to wake up, because they have other kind of energy. The sugar is very low, and will wake up. Yeah, but if they open their eyes, and usually it's 3 a.m. in the morning, and every night I'm waking up 3 a.m. Yeah, because the cortisol lowest, your sugar probably lowest, and you're waking up, and then you need to go to the toilet, and you have no idea what's going on. Darling, you're aging and you have a glucose issue. You need to address and see what's going on with your glucose at night time, and make lifestyle adjustments to make your sugar nighttime better. Maybe stop drinking coffee, maybe stop drinking alcohol, maybe you need to exercise a bit more, you need to change something to make your glucose more stable. And 3 a.m. waking up very often linked to the glucose. So if you or somebody in your family waking up 3 a.m. and waking up somebody else, your husband or your wife, and then you're saying, oh, I'm androgenic or I'm menopausal. Yes, you are, and yes, your response to glucose changing. And how about we're going to look at that, and you stop waking me up and have a good sleep at night? And it's possible. It's possible. We're blaming hormones, we're blaming everything. But if you're waking up 3 a.m., that is a sign cortisol lowers. And what happened at 4 o'clock? 4 o'clock, cortisol going and rise from 4 or 5, depend on season, depends on your circadian rhythm, because your type of your early or later, but it's going up. Cortisol start to increase, adrenal glands start to release more cortisol in the bloodstream, and cortisol lifting up your sugar naturally. Yeah. So here is about hypoglycemia at night time. Quite often it actually might happen as well at midnight, approximately. So if you're in trouble, if you're constantly like me, I was constantly and going deep, like 3 a.m. is, I would say for majority of the people, quite risky. Yeah, and we need to address it. So, of course, melatonin affects insulin sensitivity, and melatonin is a sleeping hormone as well. Not sleeping hormone, it's the hormone get produced to enhance our sleep, and is affecting insulin sensitivity. So, all these hormones link to the sugar, and everybody needs sugar. Yeah. So that's why daytime and evening meals after midday, after around 4 o'clock, we reduce consumption or first of all stimulants. Any stimulants, coffee, alcohol. So if you won't drink alcohol, drink it before 4 p.m. Yeah, so drink that. In the evening, we don't drink it, because that will create these drips at night time, disturb your night cycle, and your sugar. You'll be lack of sugar, and you don't eat any desserts in the evening. You eat your last dessert at lunchtime, and that's it. If you want to eat something sweet, eat that, but that time it's not going to affect your melatonin, your GABA receptors, and you're more likely to have a good sleep. And we don't exercise too much, because when you exercise, you increase your cortisol, and cortisol is not very good to increase in the evening. Yeah, it's a morning hormone. Yeah, and as a result, cortisol release you more sugar in the bloodstream, and you're again going into the wrong direction. Of course, here regular bedtime, your circadian rhythms, regular sleep routine is very important. It's the lighting, your blue light, and meditation, maybe your rituals, what suits your pattern, what's going on in there, and what is your chronotype. Yeah, are you owl? Because some owls, certainly I can say, we know in science that owls, they have a 10 years shorter lifespan in average. So if you're owl time and you just need to sleep like 1 a.m., 2 a.m., you lose a lot, around 10 years of your life. So that's why if you can shift it or try to change it. Maybe it's linked to your lifestyle. Yeah, we don't know yet, there's not enough of research, but I think if you change your lifestyle and you can shift it, being late owl, but it's if you're very late, just but you could make it can do it better. So what hormones involved? And of course, in glycotype, the hormone number one is insulin. Insulin getting very popular, so it's number one hormone. He'll predict to you in the morning what's going on. Second hormone is lowering glucose. Yeah, it's a hormone who then you got a glucose, they get released, and it's helping to grow other fat tissue, fuel up this fat, telling you what to do. Open that and going, sugar, I want to transfer it to triglycerides, and triglycerides go to the fat, and you get bigger, and have a lot of insulin resistant. Yeah, you're usually already quite chubby, you're quite reserved. You're 500 years ago, probably wouldn't be worried your organism about it. Okay, glucagon. Glucagon is opposite. So it's insulin and glucagon produced in pancreas, insulin by beta cells, and glucagon is opposite. Yeah, so it's opposite for alpha cells, and they want to raise glucose, so sending the signals to mainly in the nighttime liver to release the glucose to keep these steady levels of glucose. Yeah, so it's the opposite hormones, it's the opposite job. Insulin is trying to drop the sugar down, and glucagon is a hormone to signaling your liver to release glycogen. Yeah, so glycagon is a hormone, cortisol, glycagon, and then they're releasing glycogen. And then you exercise, glycogen gets released from your muscles. Cortisol, here's stress. It's wrong name. It's not really stress. Of course, it gets produced in the stress, but it's morning alertness hormone that keep you alert and in the morning metabolize sugar under the stress, under tiredness, under alertness when you are in danger. Adrenaline or norepinephrine, Americans. Emergency fuel release. I know what mean adrenaline. I probably as nobody else because I'm constantly was in adrenaline with my severely low sugar since I was a child. And experience, if you're very low, I'm telling you, because nobody told me. Remember this as that was my fear since I was a child. I was 5 years old. First, I remember myself. I was ice skating in Siberia when I visited my grandma. It's so cold now. Siberia is freezing cold winters, minus 20. It's probably definitely. You can imagine, little child, 5 years old, ice skating. And then I remember I went to my grandma's flat, and it's a third floor. I ring the doorbell and I can't breathe. So I remember this. It's like shortness of a breath, very quick, but very, very short. And I can't take a deep breath. I was so scared. I said to Granny, open the door, really unwell. And then this episode's coming back, and I got a terrible fear of them, and I couldn't understand. I felt this in my heart, I have a little bit of pain. And that was the child adrenaline surges. Then too much adrenaline gets released in the bloodstream to lift my probably blood sugar. And I suffered all my life. And nighttime sweats, waking up in terrible terror, where I am, what's going on, and your heart beats, and you're breathing like you see something terrible at night. And this adrenaline constantly awake with me as my shadow at all time. My adrenal gland was actually exhausted, but I'm so healthy. So it took me 4 months to stabilize it when I find out what's going on with me finally and answers to all my questions. So that's why I want you as well to know and take sugar seriously. So adrenaline or epinephrine is emergency when you in between your death and life, or you're very in danger, your organism start to produce. And adrenaline, they don't want that to practice daily, because one earlier or later adrenaline gland might fail and adrenaline might be not released and you're a dead person. Sudden deaths, some hypoglycemic people, they might be the reason adrenal glands simply not get released, and your brain going to coma, and that you just die young. And this is a risk for people with hypoglycemia and low sugar levels. Growth hormone and thyroid, the T3 and T4, T4 storage, and T3 is active form, is a long-term regulators as well of glucose. We all need it. And of course, the balance between all the hormones, the balance between and practice and alertness. So we need adrenaline be released to practice, and the cortisol daily basis. Cortisol every single morning get released, and they need to keep this everything in balance. So adrenal cortisol connection. So I already explain you my situation, but morning cortisol spikes, absolutely healthy and absolutely normal to have them. Wake up energy boost. If you don't have these spikes, you probably have problems. When I discovered my issues, there was no spikes, and it was no spikes when I was start exercise. After 4 or 5 months of very strict lifestyle changes in the diet, I start notice the spikes in the morning and spikes when I start to exercise. It's great. It took me 4 months to calm down my adrenal gland. This is what we call adrenal gland exhaustion. That means you don't spike and adrenal gland not doing proper job, and your organism, it's not only adrenal gland, is your hormonal signaling being disturbed, because adrenaline probably already knowing that they need to do it, and the cortisol already didn't even step in. They said, what a point, it'd be not enough. She's not giving the food anyway. It's not enough, and I'm not going to do anything. Now wait, adrenaline, he's more powerful and he will do the job. And cortisol, my cortisol already cut it off and say, I'm not bothered. I will go down, and I wouldn't spike too high. But again, we don't want this to happen. You want everything to be. We want cortisol to do the job. We do want cortisol to spike you and wake you up in the morning and release the sugar. They want cortisol to keep your sugar as well a little bit higher, to boost release as well from your muscle when you exercise. And chronic stress here, if it's mental, psychological effect, not physical, stressful job and cortisol, they will keep your cortisol and sugar level always high, and that is a danger. Yeah, so you need to identify where these spikes come from, and is that chronic stress, or is it chronically you don't sleep enough, and making reasonable changes. So as a result, elevated fasting glucose, late day fatigue, mood changes, and there's anxiety, depression, and all the list that we have now, 80% visit to our GP and health issue actually linked to these problems. Adrenaline, sudden spikes for very low, sky high up, night sweating, perimenopausal, andropause, all these changes. And of course here is a lot of lifestyle techniques when I'm talking in all my lectures, what to do step by step. Exercise, again, short burst, rise glucose temporarily. So that means even if you're moving after the food, then you eat something, it might be beneficial. Recovery phase, increase insulin sensitivity as well, and muscle store more glycogen, and as a result, you'll have a fever spike. So more you exercise, more you practice and train your mitochondria. Yeah, mitochondria. We're talking about cold exposure, we're talking about intermittent fasting, we're talking about physical activity, so many different options, so many things, how stress management, good sleep, because we restore mitochondria in the brain, and being flexible. Yeah, flexibility, again, I need to remind it, and because I don't know which lecture you're going to. Being metabolic flexible is when you switch between glucose and ketones, and ketones get produced when you start to break down your fat, triglycerides from your fat tissue or from the bloodstream. During fasting, your body switch to fat and produce ketones, and it's essential, super important to know that you produce these ketones on a healthy way. Healthy way, that means you do it by breaking down your fat, not because of malfunction of your metabolic state. And here, smooth transition is very important. We want to know that you're flexible and you produce these ketones, and you can check them. We have ketometers together with glucometers. Again, there is some continuous ketometers, and I think Abbott gonna make both, and glucose and ketones monitor on the same. So you just wear one device and you can see how it goes. So when glucose goes up, ketones goes down, then glucose goes down, ketones should goes up, and we'll be able to see these healthy patterns that mean everything is right. If that abnormality, something's going on, you need attention. It's all new science, it's all new so far in the market, and it's fascinating that I'm sharing with you future, and we're stepping, getting ready for new medicine, new healthcare, and new longevity tricks. Okay, occasional fasting trains switches, and ketones protect mitochondria. Ketone is extra food for every single cells, including brain. Brain mainly is really good in them, loves ketones, and because when you have a severe glycotypes, you have feel dizzy, foggy, and you struggle with concentration, and here ketones might help you, but with a lot of precautions. Intermittent fasting, we're going to talk next lecture. It will be lecture recorded when I will say what is benefits of that, and is required extra time for that. So what biomarkers we want for healthy individual, and ideally, as I said, we already get the biomarkers insulin sensitivity getting worse because we simply have less mitochondria to use this glucose. They're dying, they turn it from white to gray and then to black. Already get less and less successfully. Yeah, we go through. So we should eat less sugar and more fiber, and keep it up, more muscles to get these mitochondria. So we want fasting glucose to be around 4.5, 5.5. If it is less than that, we probably have a hypoglycemia events. That might be probably, as I said before, probably will be nighttime, and you might need to take some changes. But again, you might be more hypoglycemic like me, so more in the lower range, and still might be healthy. It just, you need to be a little bit more alert, a little bit more careful for your diet. Fasting insulin here is very important. Insulin should stay quite low, from 3 to 8 international units per milliliter. If you're doing the insulin, sadly in the UK is not standardized yet in private care or even GPs. They're quite expensive, more expensive test comparison to other tests, and they're usually performed in the hospital by consultants, specific laboratories. I hope that in the UK insulin testing will be more available together with C-peptide. They'll be able to see what is mirroring your insulin. Again, because it's quite new, all of the science, it does take time. Industry, businesses, and healthcare adapt to new requirements of biomarkers we want to see, but we want the insulin, fasting insulin, to be quite low, and C-peptides as well represent, because insulin goes quite quickly out of the bloodstream, and it might be not that mirroring. They need to see together with the co-founder of insulin, co-worker of insulin, they called C-peptide, and C-peptides stay in the bloodstream for a little bit longer, and it will be another good biomarkers for a healthcare professional to see and tell you a little bit more about your metabolic morning and fasting state. Triglycerides, as I said before, get moved and going through metabolism mainly from fructose, from fruits. So if you eat a lot of fruits in your diet, and you down your triglycerides, lipid profile, and you see cholesterol high and you're high in triglycerides, that are a result of your fruits. then mainly fruits. We want them to be less than 1.1 ideally. If anything more than that, you have a little bit more, just work on your diet. Cut a little bit off your fruits intake or sugar from fructose, fruits and vegetables. And of course, high density lipoprotein triglycerides ratio, because triglycerides here is key, and high density lipoproteins. We stepping back more and more from LDL, or what they call it, bad cholesterol, because we find out more evidence that actually there is a very good part of low density triglycerides, and actually it's not that bad as originally thought. But it's important to know what is the level high density lipoprotein in what is your triglyceride level. And lipoproteins, they have alpha and beta, A and B type, and they're crucial to deliver fat soluble ingredients and neurotransmitters, or these molecules, to the place they should be. So that's why nowadays we're already stepping back from this idea of bad cholesterol. Still popular on social medias, still popular in some doctor surgeries, but getting less and less worrying and alarming biomarkers. So still very hard to say something against, because it's debate of professionals, and they do debate a lot about this. So don't be surprised if somebody is trying incredibly prescribe statins to reduce, some doctors to reduce your low density cholesterol. But this is not anymore biomarkers in the latest lifestyle medicine what we are really worried about. So a little bit more about C-peptides, because when we do the insulin might be not enough information, and occasionally, time to time, we can look in C-peptides, because it's secreted together with insulin. We go one-to-one by insulin beta cells, by pancreas, beta cells, and insulin gets, by insulin by beta cells, and glucagon, correct, by beta cells get produced together with by beta cells, and it's not very quickly cleared by liver comparison to insulin, and insulin got metabolized very quickly. And if you have a high C-peptides, they showing you have insulin resistant pattern. If you're low, very low in C-peptides, they showing that you might be beta cells fatigue, or it might be alarming that you might develop type 1 diabetes. And type 1 diabetes, a lot of people get diagnosed in their 20s or late teens. So that's why C-peptides testing, mainly for younger people who are extra lean, super slim. And this is what I would say, if somebody super slim, and as well as I would say, is alarm. Yeah, why are you so slim? Why are you so lean? And that's true, as me, a quite lean person, woman, and there is a pay for that. Yeah, so there's nothing coming free of charge. You always pay the price from if you're too big or you're too lean. Somehow I still believe being lean is more, of course, more beneficial, but they have their own lean problems inside. So that's why C-peptides, if it's low, this might be a sign of a problem. They need to be addressed and make some changes. So together, insulin and C-peptides will give us a better picture of what's going on in terms of your sensitivity. Triglycerides and fructose, again, we're coming back to triglycerides, because high triglycerides, that means a sign of hepatic insulin resistance. It means you're eating too much sugar and too much fructose. That should be, that means your liver might go into resistance as well. And if it's moderately, it might go into turning after that as well to the liver issue. Yeah, non-alcoholic fatty liver. Yeah, we don't want this to be, because triglycerides, they might affect in that. Soft drinks, fruit juices, and some some desserts might trigger that, increase the number. So if your triglycerides higher than 1.7, it's already alarming. So yeah, if it's a millimole per liter. So if you have this number, ideally, you have to take something you have to do. Number one is cut off your fructose and glucose levels. and of course see maybe where your glucose monitoring, everything, speak of healthcare professionals. So now microbiomes. Do you know, you'll be probably surprised, but if you do a DNA test, you might see your genetic predisposition. When I done my test, genetic test, I was saying I'm hypoglycemic, and that already written in my genes. Microbiomes as well is a blueprint. Genetics is mean they might have it, might don't have it. But I have a lot of genes saying that, Elena, you will be hypoglycemic, and that is your risk, and I am. Thanks for that. And gut microbiomes is bacteria, fungi, everything will live inside of the gut. And they're breaking down everything what we eat, including, of course, carbs. And they control 20-30% of glucose variation, and there is a lot of different bacteria involved in that. And what is here interesting, that what you eat will affect your microbiomes. Yeah? Doing already in lifestyle have so many different approaches, can do so many different tests. Some of them will be useless and it will be a waste of money. So that's why I prefer to tell you some essential things is less expensive, but DNA might give you the picture. And microbiomes is also quite new, so don't expect your GP do your microbiome test unless you don't have any severe gastrointestinal disease, because I want to check my sugar. No, so you have to go privately. The price is around 300, 400 pounds, 700 pounds. Really depends on the test you're going to do, and but is worth to understand what's going on in your gut, mainly if you have concern, you have any issue. For example, you can't lose your weight, and you tried a lot of different things. You have a bloating, you have diarrhea, have regular constipation. You don't know where to start. That bacteria is a nutritionist, healthcare professional, I don't know, me, I'm fully trained in all this stuff. They will be able to see, look in your results. They will be able to divert where to start. There is more alarming. And what is very important here to understand, there is never absolute balance. It's been more balanced. The most balanced people, actually, in terms of diet, will be Mediterranean diet. Ideally without alcohol and reduced consumption of fat, animal fat. And for example, stable patterns, Faecalibacterium and Roseburia is a family of different bacteria, and if you have them and they're good numbers, you more likely have a more stable pattern. And if you have Bacteroides and Glycotypes types, then you have a more spiky patterns. Again, that might be shifted if you use more fiber, consume more fiber, fermented food, polyphenols, and you can actually alter and shift your microbiomes, and that will help. So here is, again, it's nutrition. And remember that antibiotics, stress, the same adrenaline, all these substances very actively change your microbiomes. As I said, genetics predisposition is sign around, is like a blueprint. It can be switched on and switched off. Epigenetics is our lifestyle, and genetics is written there. And then epigenetics, with different words, we choose ourselves what we're going to switch on, what we're going to switch off. Yeah, and our daily choices is which button you switch. You switched on, or you switched off. And here, it's mean your predisposition. So you might have it, you might don't have it. So if it genetically saying you might be hyperglycemic or hypoglycemic, depends on your lifestyle. What do you live? How do you eat? And excuse me, when you're born and where you're born. Yeah, because here location is very important. What is the moisture level? What is the environment, bacterial level? Are you live in India? Are you living in United States? Are you living in, I don't know, in Norway? All this in Africa, all these different locations will have their own specific microbiomes, will shape you as a person, and of course affecting a lot of biomarkers and on you. Then you move a country, you move location, you move your microbiomes again, because different food is a different environment, different moisture, different amount of sun, etc. So here is really important. Family patterns, maybe because we usually eat the similar food. Yeah, and they cook the same way. They have a cultural differences, and that's why usually we do because of learning, of life experience, they usually prefer to do the same as being learned by other parents or other guardians. Sleep, nutrition, exercise can reverse it. Yeah, so our daily choices is up to you what you're going to do. If you have enough of knowledge and enough of information in your hands and your head, yeah, then you can make amendments in your life. That's why Lifestyle Medicine here, we are to help, to support your journey and to direct you in the right direction. Diet here is number one lifestyle lever. Yeah, so because the glucose is everything, is all about food. You are what you eat, you are what you put into this mouth, yeah, and what's coming out as well in terms of psychology, because psychology is really important as well, but not that important in comparison to energy, what we eat. So that's why regular meat with fiber, we recommend at least 35. First of all, is around 30 to 40 grams of fiber every single day, and variety, differentiality, around 35 different names of fiber intakes. So please make sure you can write them down, what do you approximately eat, and make sure you keep the amount daily, plus minus, and you keep variety, so to keep your microbiomes more diverse. And of course the proteins that actually proteins and good natural, not processed oils, cold pressed olive oil in this case would be one of the best. Avocado, very good. Grapeseed oil might be used as well, or the blanc your spikes. Balanced macronutrients. Micronutrients is everything we're talking about. The fat and the proteins levels, proteins and fat, they will flatten that. And of course exercise. I wouldn't skip in meals and too many snacks. So snacking here is very important, because if you go to more snacks rich in sugar, I'm talking about mainly sugar, you'll spike more and more, and your insulin will be high and will be not beneficial for your mean glucose level. Sleep, very important, but sleep is different topic, is a different life. It's life. 1/3 extra mysterious life is very hard to learn and study about, but it's life, a different world, your different life. What you do there, oh God. We all do. Probably will be ashamed of what's in our dreams in there. And alcohol and that snake worse than glycotypes. Yeah, depends. Alcohol, number one killer. Try to. If you really can't live without alcohol, you have to do parties in the morning, not in the evening. And of course, about your opinion in the Glycotypes project. If you want to continue, learn and be involved, or have more questions about glycotypes, from last year in the grant we got Pathfinder invest 4 million. They got the EU Glycotypes project. You can Google them and follow them in the papers, because I don't know if I'm going to record more lectures about it. And they combine continued glucose monitor, microbiomes, and glycomics, and of course artificial intelligence and resources. How combine all this information together, because microbiomes are around 28,000 different microbiomes. You can imagine, they scan microbiomes. God. Identifying early glucose patterns in healthy adults. So what is the patterns, where are you going to bring, what is the link between that? Develop precision nutrition by glucotype. Here, of course, we'll see precision is mean we're all individual, we all need individual approach. And the goal, of course, here is personalized diet plans by metabolic age, by metabolic type. What diet needs to you? As I said, really depends on the age group. We need different approach, we need different food. So when you're younger, it's more fructose and glucose. Then you got more middle age. Our diet should be more rich with proteins, because we build up these muscles and more diverse, and then getting older is probably more plant-based. But advertisement now, a lot of countries, because we're looking on longevity, when you get older, you probably have to be staying active and consume less animal proteins and animal ingredients comparison when you're more younger. So that's why we need a little bit more research in saying that older they get, probably more vegetarian, pro-vegetarian diets on your plate will be more beneficial for better health outcome. So far, what we can do once we're waiting another few years and follow glycotype research from European Union, check your fasting glucose and install continuous glucose monitoring, trying to find out your morning insulin and C-peptides and your triglyceride level, and that will be a beautiful picture of your metabolic state up to date, and we'll be able to, I don't know, share or discuss that. Track your daily energy, maybe have your records and record it. How do you feel? What do you eat? And your mood, your anxiety. Did you notice an improvement? Be patient. Be really patient. Younger you are, faster you might notice result in your changes. Older you get, more patient you have to be. So for my case, it took me 4 or 5 months to see result. Yeah, that long, and it was very hard. I was really giving up. So don't give up. Understand what is the state of your adrenal gland. It's worth it. The changes and the lifestyle changes and discovery and have it connected to yourself, really worth it. It's a great journey. I really enjoyed it so far. That's why I'm trained in sharing it to you and spreading awareness of it. So consider continued glucose monitoring for 2 weeks at least to map and see what's going on. We recommend 3 times a year, that because it's you might go through different stages. Don't be crazy about it, yeah, because here is very important. If you need for medical purpose, for your diagnosis and have an issue, pre-diabetic, diabetic, or you're on medication, then yes, you can continue. It's quite expensive, might be an extra financial trace on your budgeting, so that's why be mindful. Compare against low, moderate. Compare where you're standing, what type of the day or of the week, or what events affecting you, and act early. Yeah. So lifestyle medicine here is first of all, of course, nutrition. What do you eat and how you eat. It's a movement. It's a rest mindset. It's mindfulness. It's a psychology, if you like. And remember that your glycotype is not fixed. We can change it. We can moderate and change ourselves for better. That's it for today. And thank you for listening.